I don't want to be framed as the person against anti-white racism. I am against all racism. I am against all racism equally, as I believe everyone should be.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And maybe the term anti-white isn't correct. But the fact remains is they're pitting white people as the boogeyman. And I think that's where people are, uh, you know, because there's no denying it. You're right. It is racism, clear as day. When you say it's anti-white, like I get it. I get your point. I'm not disputing it, and I
And
agree with you
and my
100%.
personal preference about what language I want to use is
Yeah.
mine. It is
Okay.
mine. I am allowed to use whatever language I want to use. I don't have to use any language I do not want to use. And I've
Right.
had thousands of people in like all over the place demanding that I use this language. I don't think it's responsible. I'm sorry. I don't think it's responsible on several different levels.
So when
Not
you
the
see
least of
stuff,
which is that it feeds extremely bad people.
so when you see stuff like this, you remember this, the
Yeah,
aspects
that's
and
pretty
assumptions
racist. That's
of
pretty
of white
racist.
white culture.
It's also racist against non-white people, by the way, because it says that non-white people can't tell time or work hard or keep a schedule. That's pretty racist against non-white people.
It's pretty racist. You're right.
Yeah, against everyone.
And I think, I'm, I get it. It's almost like I hope the people that have been mad at Carlin are getting her point here, right? Because I agree, it is racist. I don't like being pit as the bad guy. I don't like someone yelling at me because I have biracial nieces and nephews that I love dearly because they're my family. And someone was being mocked online because he was in the exact same situation as me. And they were like, "How dare you?" And it's like, "You're a white guy." And I'm like, what the hell does that have anything to do with it? Because
Right.
I love my nieces and nephews, all of them. Some of them are biracial, some of them aren't. It makes absolutely no difference to me. But suddenly I'm supposed to feel guilt or like some underlying white guilt for this. I think people are upset because they're being the boogeyman, the bad guys, the ones that they're the blame. Like I don't want it like
Yeah.
this picture, like this one was floating around. All white people are racist. And
Yeah.
it's like
That's
that's
real. That's
racist,
really racist.
but it's convincing everyone that it's white people's fault. It's white people's problems. Like they're the reason that this racism
So,
is around.
a person's ability to be successful in the world
Hmm.
is substantially dependent on whether or not they believe they can be successful, whether or not they believe success is possible,
I
right?
agree.
Like
Yeah.
so that's we agree that that is a core component to any single person being successful. In
Okay.
this scenario, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is the argument that critical race theory makes. Critical race theory says that white people will always be successful based on purely the value of their white skin. That's what
Hmm.
it teaches about white people. It teaches that black people, and they're only, by the way, interested in black people, unless Asians are in the news for something. So let's
Okay.
just stick with that. It teaches that black people cannot be successful unless the white man lifts them up. If I had to choose between the two, and I'm sorry, I don't think either are good, but if I had
Yeah.
to choose between the two, what they're teaching to black children is much more detrimental than what they're teaching to white children. Now, how they are treating white people in the world once you get out into the working world now and they're saying we're not going to hire white men anymore, that's extremely detrimental as well. And there's going to be a story coming out pretty soon that's going to like that's going to illustrate this point entirely. Like it is, we know that it is much easier for black people to get hired now, especially in senior level positions, because everyone wants the diversity hire. But isn't it also incredibly racist to say that we're only hiring you because of the color of your skin? And this is
Definitely.
and we could go on and on for days and days and days and days and days about all the ways this ideology is racist. But I think for me, what it comes down to at the end of the day is that
Hmm.
I downright refuse to prioritize one form of racism over another form of racism just to get clicks on the internet. Like
Yeah.
it's not that important to me. And I flat out know that there are people that are pushing the anti-white language specifically because it gets them more clicks, specifically because it outrages people, specifically to make money. Again, I'm not in this to make money. I took a pay cut to do what I'm doing now. I'm
Yeah.
not in this to make money. I'm in this to actually win. And in order to win, we need to play smarter than what we are playing. I understand that like this little mob thing around the anti-white language. I get that it's fun online and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and it gets clicks and it gets views and all this, but it actually is detrimental in the larger fight because we are handing the left a win. We have got to stop being so dumb that we hand the left a win at every single turn. That's why they're winning.
I'm
That's
seeing
why they're so
real
far ahead
life
of us.
real life situations where people are being they're succumbing to believing this stuff and then
Yeah.
attacking people for it, attacking
Yes.
outside of their race. And it's not white people that are doing the attacking. I have a bunch of videos. I
Yes.
don't even want to show them because they are racist. It is racist.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's
if you've
because they're
been
pitting it against, it's this,
that's exactly
the
right.
boogeyman thing.
Yeah, but if
It's
you've been
white people's
taught
fault.
but if you have been taught that your entire life that you can only succeed if these other people are moved out of the way, that's again, that's not anti-white racism, that's anti-black racism.
No, it's just racism.
It's just racism. We can just call it all racism. That's what I call it. I call all things related to critical race theory racism. I'm only enumerating between anti-white and anti-black for the purpose of this conversation, but otherwise
Okay.
I do not do it. Because listen, like you and I are very blessed. We have a lot of people on the internet who listen to us, and
Yeah.
I
Shout out
came
to
to the
chat.
and I came to this game older, man. Like I'm 40 years old. I'm not like a mid 20 something screwing around on the internet, right? Like I believe in if I want to achieve something, I need to behave responsibly. And so, if people are offended that I'm trying to behave responsibly in regards to this whole fight, to not feed really, really bad people, to not push language that I actually think is going to do more harm than good,
Okay.
I don't know what to tell people. I don't know what to say.
So it seems like what I've gathered from this is it is anti-white
It's racist.
and it's anti-black and it's anti-everyone. It's
Everyone.
if you don't agree with me, it's anti-you.
Yeah.
And that's
and
so
and to be really frank, I understand why people are angry. I understand seeing a slide that says be less white. And by the way, the Coke whistleblower was not white. Not white. Just fun fact. But
I
like
have
I
that slide.
understand
Let me show it.
I
For
understand
those
why
who missed it.
yeah, I understand why people are angry. But I also
Tried to be less white.
yeah, but I also need to
What the hell does that mean? What
But
does
I-
that even mean?
well, okay, so how critical race theory defines whiteness is, again, it's not actually about race at all. I understand people in the chat are going to say, oh, it has race in the title, how can it not be
Don't
about
worry
race?
about chat.
It's not. Well, I can't even see the chat. I know enough about to know what the comments are. But critical race theory at the end of the day is not actually about race at all. It is about power. Critical race theory
You got
is
that
about
right.
destabilizing the system. That's what
I
it
agree
is.
with that as
And
well.
race is the tool that they're using. And when the race stops working, they'll use something else. I mean, we see this with queer theory and fat studies and all these things. Like it's just simply the tool that they're using. What they mean, and again, this is not my definition. This is critical race theory's definition. What they mean when they say whiteness is
Okay.
whoever owns the power structure. That's what it is. That's why they can get away with terms like multiracial whiteness, because they're basically saying the whole landlord debate came up recently. They're saying that, any landlord is engaging in whiteness. That landlord could be black, that landlord could be brown. They're still engaging in whiteness because they own the property, therefore they own the power structure. Critical
Now,
race
did that term come from these white supremacists, these white
No, that's from critical critical race theory. No, like
But that's still doing the same thing though. That's still
exactly.
still making white people
Welcome.
the bad guys. They're the ones that are to blame.
No.
Whiteness is the problem. Like that's what they're saying. They're saying whiteness is the problem.
Well, but you got to understand that these guys, and again, like these are, I'm going to emphasize, these are actual white identitarians.
No, I'm not talking about them anymore.
No, but I want to speak to this. I want to speak to this point. I'm going to get back to that. So these actual white identitarians want a white ethno state. That's what they want. It's horseshoe theory, or it's horseshoe theory.
Yeah, the left and the right.
They want the same thing.
Okay.
Right. The extremes on the left and the extremes on the right want the exact same thing. What does critical race theory push for, Adam? It pushes for segregation.
Yeah.
This is perfectly acceptable. to this group of
It's
white
terrible.
identitarians. That's what they
Yeah,
want.
it's ridiculous.
They ultimately have the same goal,
Okay.
right? And so why are they using the same language as the left?
hmm
Because they have the same goal.
I know, but
They
you
don't
said
want it to
earlier
stop.
that these were the ones that were pushing
Yes.
that those
Because
words. But then now
what
you just said
happens.
it's actually from critical race theory in
No,
itself.
no,
It's
no, 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 no,
written in
no.
it. But you
Well,
just said that though.
no, 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 I didn't, Adam. The words
Yeah, you did.
no, I didn't. What I said is that they are specifically pushing the anti-white language,
Okay,
but
I'm talking
whiteness,
about when you said the landlords.
yeah,
What is whiteness?
it's
There's claiming whiteness is the issue.
whiteness.
Whiteness is the boogeyman.
Whiteness
They're
is
the
who
problem.
owns the power structure.
Uh-huh.
Who
Why is
owns
it
the
called
power?
whiteness?
Because that's what the critical race theorists called it.
Right. So they're choosing to pick white people as the boogeyman to blame.
As the most powerful. Yeah. As the most powerful. Guess who else wants the white people to be the most powerful? The white identitarians. And what they're
hmm
doing when they're pushing this language, and they know exactly what they're doing, is they're making a lot of people angry. And what do angry people tend to do? Or what might be a nice recruiting base for white identitarians? Really angry white people.
Okay.
Really angry, who feel that this is the only community that's sticking up for them. And Adam, I have seen, again, I'm not going to show it because I'm behaving responsibly,
Hmm.
but like I have seen so much material on this. They're calling
Yeah.
it white well-being, they're calling it white positivity, they're calling it white survival, they're calling it a white lives matter movement. Like there's so much. People can go on Telegram and find it themselves because they're doing all this out in the open. They're not
Okay.
even hiding it.
I mean, it feels like the critical race theorists probably are okay with it.
Yes, because they have the exact same goal. This is the thing.
Yeah.
The critical race theorists and these really, really bad people have exactly the same goal, and that goal is segregation. That is
Yep.
exactly what they want. Now, but again, when we get into and I understand that this is all really complicated. Believe me, I've spent thousands of hours trying to decipher this. But when we get into like the woke progressive left, there are different levels to it, right? Most of the people that are pushing this stuff, they're useful idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They think
Okay.
they're doing it in order to be good people, but there are absolutely people at the very top who know like they're influencers. They know exactly what they're pushing, and their
Yep.
goal is to destabilize the system. That's the goal.
Okay.
Ultimately, all of this, and again, I figured this out on my own, but James Lindsay completely, we are in complete alignment on this. The ultimate goal is to usher in Marxism. That's what it is. And it's
Okay.
simply about destabilizing all of the power structures to usher in Marxism.
Yep.
That's what the ultimate goal of all of this is. And James Lindsay has done a lot of work on this, breaks it down beautifully, so I don't have to.
Fun fact, if you didn't know this, if you didn't watch my deep dive about Marx, he himself realized later on in life that his own teachings, because he wrote the Communist Manifesto when he was in his 20s, and he spent years and years in libraries as he grew older, to the detriment of his health and family ties and everything, and realized he was wrong about his own teachings, and asked his followers, please put the Communist Manifesto away. Stop reading it. I was wrong. And it's interesting. I know as a side note, has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it, but I thought people might want to know that. Look,
So
Carlin, I get it. I understand. It's being turned into a weapon, right? The anti-white rhetoric, and we
right.
can't let it. You did say that, what do they recruit these angry white people? It's like, look, I'm angry about this. I
hmm
am. I am not suddenly going to shift my entire what I've known my entire life is no one's better than anyone else. Every single person should be judged on their character and their values as a human being, and it has nothing to do with their skin color and all that. Like I truly believe it. I've always believed that. That's how I was raised. I'm not going to suddenly change because I see all people making me out to be the boogeyman. Like somehow I am to blame. You know, I
Yeah. But a lot of
you
the
said
people,
earlier, you said two things can be true at once,
yeah.
right? And I think this is the case. And we just have to be very delicate with the way that we talk about it because these people are weaponizing it. And I mean, I guess the
And
recruiting, I don't see these groups.
I've seen them, and again,
Yeah.
they're doing this in the bowels of like Telegram, but they are doing it out in the open. People can like I went on and found it. I've worked with journalists that have a lot of material on this
Yeah.
stuff. I've seen a lot of it, but I will tell you that these are, again, I want to emphasize, I'm not saying this in an SJW way where I'm calling like people have said like she's calling everyone who thinks it's anti-white a white supremacist. No, that's not what I'm saying, and I want to be very clear about this.
What are you calling them racist though? If they believe it's anti-white,
I
that's
think
kind of what your tweet said.
well, no, if they are placing a higher value on anti-white racism than anti-black racism, then yeah,
Okay.
that's a little bit racist.
But
It
how do
is.
you know that
It
they're
is. It
doing
is
that? How do you know that that's what they're
because
doing?
if you are consistently using the terms anti-white when you
Okay.
acknowledge that there are also anti-black parts of critical race theory,
Mhm.
like that's placing one value on anti-white racism and another value on anti-black racism. It can all be solved by just saying critical race theory is racist because that applies to everyone, and that's why we say all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, right? Because Black Lives Matter is
But
included
Black
in all
lives do
lives matter.
matter though.
Well,
So is
yeah,
it racist to say Black Lives Matter?
and racism against white people matters too.
Hold
But guess
on.
what?
But
It
is it
doesn't matter
racist to
anymore.
say Black Lives Matter?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah, because you're
Why
saying
though? They do
you're
matter.
of course they matter, but they don't matter any more or less than anyone else.
Okay. But so I mean, so saying I don't agree necessarily because if someone says Black Lives Matter, it's like, okay, yeah, they do.
What was the argument that we heard
Pride Lives Matter, like, yeah, okay,
summer?
sure.
All last summer about why we should say all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter because Black lives are included in all lives. Of course, Black lives matter.
Of course they do.
Everyone matters.
Okay.
And
I
no
agree.
one matters any more or less than anyone else. And it is exactly the same thing with this.
Okay.
Does critical race theory have anti-white components? Of course it does. Are they more important than the anti-black components? No.
No
So
lives matter.
No lives matter. Fine.
You've seen that
So
meme,
why
right?
can't we
The
just
metal
say
guy.
critical race theory is racist? And if you're isolating by race, again, I have to go back to the fact that this is the game that the left wants you to play.
Yeah,
We're playing. This is like, Adam, you know what this is? This is like if the devil came up from hell and
Mhm.
said, I want to play a game, but I'm going to set all the rules and I can arbitrarily change the rules whenever I want to throughout the game. You win? And we agreed to it and said, yes, we will play by your rules and you can change the rules at any time and we are completely at your whim. That is exactly what we are doing here. We are saying to the left,
Yeah.
we're going to play by your rules. We accept that you can change the rules at any time and we're just going to go by your definitions and do your thing. Part of my premise and how I'm trying to fight back against this is I fundamentally believe it's a really bad idea to accept the deal in the first place. I don't think that we need to accept the premise that we need to play by their rules. Let's create our own rules. And part of that is that I want to be the people to say this whole ideology is just racist. It's just racist.